Fireball. Alright. Hey there team, Cartoon Lark here, your Dungeon Master Sensei, and today I want to look at when you're DMing casters. How do we do it, and how do we make it an exciting time? What we have to do is we have to be so careful of making a caster boring. A caster should be a big deal. The whole point of being a mage is that you could be a one-man army on the battlefield, or a deceptive liar who can get into anywhere. When we're having mages, or wizards, or druids, or really any sort of caster that we can make up. A sorcerer, maybe they got their thing from a patron. What we want to do is we want to make sure that we make it a big deal that they have entered the battlefield. They're not just another enemy combatant. We recently did a campaign where we had a lot of soldiers attacking us all at once, and we had to make some very fast decisions. And there was an enemy caster, but what we want to do is we want to know, is this person a threat? Are they a high-level caster? Are they a low-level caster? Are they a growing threat, a shrinking threat? And there's a few different ways that we can do that. But first thing we want to do, if we're going to have a wizard of some kind on the battlefield, a druid, a warlock, or anything like that, we want to make sure we know the spells that that wizard knows. As a dungeon master, you've got a lot of prep to do, and I get that. So make your life a little easier and get some spell cards. If you don't want to buy some, make some yourself. That's fine too. Just get some index cards, write down a few spells. Now, do you have to write down all the spells that that person has in the book? No. Unless you're making a wizard a boss, then you might want to know a few extra spells. But if it's just another enemy on the field, the great, horrible warlord has hired some mercenaries, a minotaur, a few veterans, and a wizard to hunt down your party. If it's not even a named wizard, don't give him every spell that's in the book. Give him 3 spells, maybe 4 spells. He's not going to live that long anyway, and if he's casting a spell more than once, you don't have to worry about it. Make yourself some index cards, have the info right on there, and if you can, not everybody can do this, try to have your dice out ahead of time. Don't get caught with your pants down when you say, okay, the wizard casts lightning bolt. Wait, hang on, how does lightning bolt work? Let me look up lightning bolt real quick. Okay, so that's going to be 5d8. Can I borrow some d8 real quick? Be so careful of that. If you've got spell cards, if you can make those up, get your dice out ahead of time, set yourself up. If you use a DM screen, have it all behind that. Well, no big deal. Okay, there's his fireball spell, and there's his magic missile spell, and just get those ready ahead of time. That when you say the wizard casts magic missile, boom! Or if you like to be narrative, the wizard points his finger, and a small flame begins to expand quickly across you and your party. Make a death save, and then you roll your dice, and you've got them already ready to go. You know what the wizard's going to do. He's only got a few options. He's going to stick to those options. Now, on top of this, team, what we want to do is we want to be careful about when we choose spells that we make them useful. We want to make sure they're the most useful spells they can be. Be careful of giving him like message if he's not going to run away. If his mindset is death before retreat, don't give him message because he's not sending a message to anybody. Unless you want to get some intel somewhere without them having to scry, that's fine. But make sure you're making the spells simple enough where you can recognize that they're being used and the players recognize what's being used. Next thing is there's a few different kinds of casters you can set up to change the narrative of the field. One of them is build-up casters. I like to call them the Dragon Ball casters because they get more and more powerful. This isn't even my final form kind of casters. They cast a level 1 spell at the party, and the party has to deal with that. Oh no! Then they cast a level 2 spell at the party. Whoa, this guy's got level 2 spells? Okay, look out, we might have to deal with this guy faster than we thought. Then they cast a level 3 spell at the party. Okay, all focus on the wizard now before he gets to level 4. It can change the flow of combat, and you can change the narrative that you're giving based on the caster and how they're casting those spells. Increasing the danger as they go can change the focus, and it can build a little bit of discipline for the party where they can decide, okay, you know what, everybody attack that caster. It can change the way things go, which means the army can now do other things, and that could change the whole flow of combat in general. If you're dealing with multiple enemies beyond just this caster, having them level up. Now, if you've got a wizard with low hit points, as most of them do, or if you've got a druid with low hit points, as most of them have lower hit points as far as NPCs go, you may want to buff that a little bit or give them some ways to deflect or get rid of attacks. A counter spell is a great option like that, some sort of a shield spell that they can use as a reaction. Let them do those things so that that wizard can last a little bit longer and use a few more of those spells before the party takes them out. That being said, a party recognizing a wizard as a threat and taking them out as fast as possible is nothing to be mad at. Let them do that. If they're feeling desperate, then you're making your wizards dangerous. The other kind of caster I want to talk about is the caster that goes from their strongest to their weakest, the cannon casters. So these guys aren't trying to build themselves up and have their aura become more and more powerful as they're casting bigger and bigger spells. They come in with a purpose. They are a cannon. The reason you bring cannons onto the battlefield is to clear that first line and let your guys get in there. So this caster comes in like a cannon. They start with their level 3 spells until they're out of slots. Then they'll go to level 2 until they're out of slots, and then level 1 until they're out of slots. A cannon caster is going to change the way the party works, because when they see that first spell hit, they're not going to want to engage the caster. They're actually probably going to want to make as much space as possible, and if they're going to hit it at range, but they're not going to want to aggro that and take that big hit from a massive spell. What you can do with this is you can make the party hide or try to get away from this specific caster, allowing other enemies on the battlefield to do their mission. Don't have enemies just attack for the sake of attacking. Have them have a mission. Maybe even if it is an attack, they want to take the center of the town. And now with this caster casting these lightning bolt spells, lightning bolt spell, lightning bolt spell, the party is like, okay, let's avoid the caster. Now the Minotaur has an opening to charge straight in, because if you want to fight the Minotaur, you got to jump in line of the caster's lightning bolt spell. This is a change in the flow of combat, and you're using the caster as that cannon until you can describe their aura is slowly shrinking. The stormlight leaving their ears and eyes and nose is slowly receding back into their body as they're running out of magic. They're becoming exhausted, and one of their hands hits the ground as they continue to cast spell after spell every 6 seconds at the party. These are great ways to make your caster a little more interesting. Again, either they're building up or they're breaking down as they cast their spells. Another thing we can do, attack patterns. Have your casters use some area of effect spells and stick to those kinds of spells. Let them cast an area effect spell, even at different levels, area effect spells every time. That's going to give the party intel. This caster uses area of effect spells. We can strategize around that. You're giving the party a chance to strategize against your team by having a specific type of spell, and reward them for that. Don't punish them for that. Don't go area effect, and then they all charge him and he does a lightning bolt spell as they line up. Give them that opportunity to read what this spellcaster is doing and play to that with their own strength. Does he not need line of sight? Does he not care about line of sight? Is he fighting in the dark or the light? Is he doing line attacks, AoE attacks, or individual sniping attacks? These are the different things we want to think about for the caster, and giving them one role like that can make them very interesting. To theme your caster, it doesn't necessarily have to be he's a lightning caster or he's a fire caster. It can be he's an area of effect caster. It can be he's a line caster. He does poison spray, and then he does lightning bolt, and then he does scorching ray. Whatever. All of his attacks happen in lines. And that's an interesting way to play it, which is going to tell the party how they have to move to fight this guy. Now, when we're working on the themes of these casters, we can make it the line, we can make it the AoE, we can make it the elements, we can also make it divination, or we can make it summoning, or we can make it cursing. We have a few different options to play with here, and when you make that wizard, theme them that way. Try not to give them everything. That's like a boss wizard. If you're going to have a boss character, give them everything. Let them have all the powers and memorize all those spells. You get all your cards out. That's fine too. But if you're going to have just an NPC enemy wizard unnamed, let them do one thing and be really good at it and scare the players a little bit. Let them fear the power of this wizard. Describe how they're casting, what they're doing it. You know, this guy is a curse wizard, and every time he casts a spell, he cracks a centipede in half and eats one half and stomps out the other half. Maybe that's his focus, his centipedes, or whatever you do. You can make it a blood sacrifice. He keeps cutting his hand. You can make it so he's sacrificing an animal. You can make it so he's reading from a book, or he has an arcane focus. Maybe he's doing these symbols in the air with his hands, and if you can entangle him, it'll stop him from casting. There's different things that we can do to let the players know narratively there's ways you can stop this guy if you're going to make your casters as powerful as they could be. Let your players know that stuff, give them that information, and see if they get creative with it. Again, I love when players jump on something the DM said because it's canon now, and they use it against him. That is a great way to use strategy and to be really in the world. The more we're in the world, the better the game. If the DM happens to mention, yeah, he waves his hand in a circle, and you see a fireball explode around you. Okay, entangle him. We entangle his arms. He can't cast spells anymore. That's a great thing to have at your table, and if you're describing things like that, it's going to get the players thinking, how can I stop this guy from casting without having to kill him? First of all, it's not always easy to kill enemies like that, and second of all, if we can stop him before we finish him off, it's to our benefit, so now we can have time to rush in and crush this guy. Last thing to talk about today, when we're looking at wizards is make them different than your usual enemy bosses or animals. There's other things that we throw at the party members that can be magical. You can have an Umberhawk that's hypnotizing people. You can have a Wraith that's making them afraid. You can have a Chimera that's breathing fire on them. And there's ways to do that, but you don't want it to be the same as your monsters. Never make your wizard the same as your monsters, or your caster, I should say, your sorcerer, your warlock. Don't make it the same as your monsters. Make it something unique. If typically when you have a monster on the field, you follow a pattern, they do attack, elemental weapon, or attack, spell, break that pattern for your wizard. Find some other way to do it. Again, build them up or build them down. If you're going to give your wizard a ton of defenses where you know it's going to take the party a while to get to them, give them a pattern that they run through, but make it different than how your monsters do it. Maybe they do single shot spell, and then chain spell, and then huge area effect spell. So and then they repeat that set. Single shot, chain, and the party knows the big AoE spell is coming. We gotta push in now. Kill him right now. Get in there. Letting your players see those patterns is an awesome thing, and it'll save you time as the dungeon master. Now you won't have to spend so much time thinking, okay, what would the wizard do in this situation? You just write down this spell, this spell, this spell. And the only time that pattern stops is when the wizard dies. Save yourself the time as a dungeon master. Have your dice ready, have your cards ready, know what spells the wizard's going to cast, and let them follow that pattern, even if it's not the best thing to do in the moment. Most of the time, when people go into combat, they come in with a plan, a strategy in place, and you don't want to waste a whole lot of time trying to roleplay a wizard character that's just going to end up being player fodder anyway. They're going to die, and that's okay. That's part of their story. Just say what they're doing, how they're doing it, and get it done. They're just another enemy on the battlefield. They don't have to show every spell they had. In fact, it might be a really cool moment if they had all their spells tattooed on their arms, and when your players inspect the body, you find that they had a wish spell at the ready and they were working their way up to it. You never know what you can find, and it can be a really cool moment that way if you give them that. Let them know they were in more danger than they even realized. That's a good way to reward the players for killing the wizard early. So use your wizard NPCs in combat, but make sure you're taking it easy on yourself. Pre-prep everything so there's less to do at the table. You're making your turns shorter and keeping the game about your players. For any more advice on dungeon mastering, player tips, or to check out some of my backstory for my current character Merrick in our campaign, be sure to subscribe, like this video, share it with some other DMs that are interested in this sort of thing. I'll be posting videos every single week. I'm Cartoon Lark, and you guys have a great one. Best of luck in your future adventures.